Dear friends, our story from Luke's Gospel this morning illustrates one of Luke's major themes, which is the existence of saving faith outside of the official community of Israel, most notably within the Samaritan community. The Samaritans were not seen as acceptable, yet our story this morning flags up the Samaritans' faith over against the Israelites, as does the more classic story of the Good Samaritan. Imagine a Protestant fundamentalist from the United States praising the saving faith of a Muslim, and you get a good sense of how transgressive Jesus is being here. Was no one found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner? So it is the outsider who gives thanks, who gives the model response. And Jesus then says to him, "Rise and go, your faith has made you well." This link between faith and thanksgiving is a challenging one. For to give thanks, to feel grateful, is indeed the heart of the Christian way. As St. Paul puts it in his prison letter from Philippi, "I have learned to be content with whatever I have. I know what it is to have little, and I know what it is to have plenty. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being well fed and of going hungry, of having plenty and of being in need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me." To give thanks in all circumstances, this is the Christian way. Yet it can be very difficult. How are we to give thanks in the midst of heartbreak? Let me offer a sailing analogy. Human life can be a little bit like being on a small boat in heavy seas. So when the boat is high on the crest of a wave, then it's possible to see a long way. It can be exhilarating. This corresponds to the moments in life when we are on a high, and it can be easy to give thanks. Yet then, when the boat plunges in between two walls of water, and the water seems to crowd round and want to destroy you, then the feelings are not of giving thanks, but of fear and trembling, and it can seem impossible to say thank you. The key, I would suggest, is that we don't think so much of linking our thanks to where we are on the wave, so that we say thank you at the top, and we grumble and complain at the bottom. Instead, we link our thanks to the existence of water, to being able to sail. So we actually change the focus of our attention away from where we are, whether high on the water or low in the troughs, to simply being an awareness of sailing on the water at all. Now, it's extremely difficult to do this without some sense of not being afraid. Consider the time when the disciples are crossing the Sea of Galilee. Jesus is asleep. A storm comes up, and the disciples wake Jesus up for fear that they're about to drown. Then Jesus, after calming the storm, rebukes them for their lack of faith. Remember, the opposite of faith isn't doubt, for doubt and faith are twin siblings who are never happy when they've been separated for too long. No, the opposite of faith is fear. The only way in which it is possible to give thanks for being on the water in the midst of a storm, to not focus on the highs or lows, but on the process of travelling as such, the only way to give thanks is to not be afraid of what the water can do. Or to put that a bit differently, whatever the water might do, we will be caught by God. As Psalm 139 has it, "For where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make the grave my bed, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand hold me fast." Two more linked points about thanksgiving. The Greek word that means to give thanks is Eucharistio, from which we gain our word Eucharist, which is the technical name for sharing the Lord's Supper. When we gather to share the bread and wine, we do so as an offering of thanks to the one who saves and redeems us. Crucially, this thanksgiving is a shared activity, which points out something about our thanksgiving. A Christian culture is a Eucharistic culture. The Eucharist makes the church. And what we do at the table shapes us for what we do in the week. And that involves not just giving thanks to God, but also giving thanks to and for each other. In just the same way that there are the two great commandments, to love God and to love neighbour, so too are we called to give thanks in both directions, to thank God and to thank neighbour. That is how we develop Christian culture. This is how we bear each other's burdens and gain strength to keep on keeping on. This we are taught to do in our Eucharist. But secondly, I have found thanksgiving to be the best way to overcome my fear of death. My father died suddenly in his mid-50s, just a little older than I am now, and as I am similar to my father in many ways, especially physically, that has been playing on my mind a little. Yet I find that when I am able to be grateful for the life that I have had, with all its peaks and troughs, its wonders and absurdities, then the fear of death diminishes. I am grateful to God for what I have received. Of course I want more, but when my thanksgiving is greater than my appetite, that is when I find myself at peace on the water. There is a marvellous prayer in our spiritual inheritance which is called the prayer of thanksgiving, which I commend to you for use and reflection. But more briefly, let us give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, and his mercy endureth forever. Amen.